Good morning, folks. So it is Saturday, April 30th, and I am getting ready to go to a bookstore called Book Culture to get a copy of Viola Davis's new memoir, Finding Me. So I woke up on this gorgeous Saturday solar eclipse and Taurus day here in Harlem, saw a YouTube clip of Viola Davis, Oprah Winfrey, and Gayle King talking about colorism and other things, but colorism in Viola Davis's life and in her memoir. And I was like, that's it. Go and get the book today and gonna start reading it ASAP. So I'm gonna bring you all along with me because I want to do a vlog of the process, but also we'll be doing a book review, book summary, and analysis. So let's go. So now that I've been able to catch my breath from those stairs in Morningside Park, anybody watching this already knows who Viola Davis is, but as Oprah said, we don't really know who Viola Davis is. I really am thinking about the book cover because when Oprah turned the book cover around and showed the image of Viola Davis as a little girl, it reminds me a lot of this photo of myself, which I keep as my screensaver on my phone to remind me of where I've come from.
It's not there any longer. Something happened somewhere and we both know why. But me, I'm getting stronger.
The first location was great, but their last copy was already on hold, so they sent me a couple of blocks up to their second location.
Stop pretending I can't live this life.
The book begins with Viola Davis growing up in the only Black family in her hometown of Central Falls, Illinois. At home, Viola experienced lots of trauma from poverty, food insecurity, sexual abuse, and domestic violence. At school, it was cruelty from her peers as well as disdain from many of her white teachers due to racism, colorism, and again, the effects of poverty. There was also the general volatility of the larger community, as Viola Davis called it, a minefield due to that racism and poverty and misogyny that made young Black girls particularly vulnerable. The pervasive theme throughout many of her experiences in Central Falls and at 128, as she calls it, is secrets, silence, and shame, which is also the name of one of the chapters. But it was also during her childhood that Viola developed a profound love for her family, especially bonding with her sisters. Together, they saw Cicely Tyson on TV, which planted the seed of Viola's acting dreams. And we might say that's the reason we know of her today. Viola and her sisters also had a deep drive to succeed at school, but it was motivated by insecurities. She strove toward success, always seeking to escape her past and hoping that it would fill the void of never feeling good enough. She believed achievements would soothe that pain and that achieving would tip the scale towards acceptance. Man, oh man, can I relate to that? From the very beginning, Viola calls out colorism. In fact, she explicitly talks about it throughout the entire book, and I'll zoom in on that aspect in just a moment. As Viola grows, we see how her passion to pursue an acting career does in fact take her out of Central Falls, Rhode Island, eventually to places around the world where she continues to fight with grit and determination. She continues to hone her craft while building her career, all the while growing closer and closer to herself. She takes us, the readers, along with her through memories of some of her most notable milestones, from awards and projects and roles that we all know her for, including Doubt, The Help, and How to Get Away with Murder. Through it all, her relationships with family, with men, and most significantly, her relationship to her younger self evolve and start to heal. A lot of people invoke Viola Davis's name as proof that colorism is not as bad as we try to make it out to be. They say, well, look at Viola Davis. Look at how successful she is. Look at how she's celebrated and awarded for her work. Surely she's proof that dark-skinned women are accepted in the industry. Well, Viola Davis herself says otherwise. I have highlighted every instance in the book where Viola Davis talks explicitly about colorism or being dark-skinned. Some of them are quick mentions, and in other places she elaborates more fully. And I didn't even tag other places related to colorism, such as when she's talking about her hair or her blackness as an icon for her skin tone and her facial features, because I want to emphasize just how often she talks about colorism and just how thoroughly and directly she acknowledges it. So for anyone who might suggest that I'm reaching or reading too much into it, it's spelled out right here on the pages of her book. And that's one thing I love about the book. She doesn't dance around the topic of colorism. She just calls it out. Straight up. Now, the first explicit discussion of conversation is in chapter 2, where she's actually talking about her mother's experiences of being beaten in school by a light-skinned teacher. That's right, folks. Viola Davis's mother was not being bullied by other classmates or peers, but by an adult. Later in the book, she describes the impact of colorism on her acting career. In chapter 15, for example, she says, "My other aha moment was the power, potency, and life force of the 1-2 punch of colorism and sexism. Almost every role I auditioned for were drug-addicted mothers. I auditioned for a few roles that were low budget for a woman of color, but all of them were described as light-skinned. All. The most extensive discussion comes in the last chapter when Viola talks about being cast as the leading lady and how to get away with murder." As you can see, I have highlighted very extensively here, and all of this is a discussion about colorism. So I'm going to read a little bit just so you see how clearly and directly she spells it out. "I am a dark-skinned woman. Culturally, there is a spoken and unspoken narrative rooted in Jim Crow. It tells us that dark-skinned women are simply not desirable. All the attributes that are attributed to being a woman, desirable, vulnerable, needing to be rescued, don't apply to us. In the past, we've been used as chattel, fodder for inhumane experimentation, and it has evolved into invisibility. How it plays out in entertainment is that we are relegated to best friends, to strong, loudmouth, sassy lawyers and doctors." Folks, and that's just one little paragraph. Oh, but it goes on. Speaking of a cast in a different show, a different play, I believe, she says, quote, "Many of the black males and black females in the cast were saying, there's no way that show is going to work with Viola Davis in the lead. There's no way that it's going to work. She's not pretty enough. She's not feminine enough. She does not turn me on. It is a widely held belief that dark-skinned women just don't do it for a lot of black men. It's a mentality rooted in both racism and misogyny that you have no value as a woman if you don't turn them on." Folks, she keeping it real, okay? She keeping it all the way 100. Viola Davis airs the dirty laundry of colorism and talks about how it plays out in the TV and film industry. And she calls out the fact that it's not just happening in projects created by for white people, but it's happening in so-called Black projects that are aimed at telling Black stories. Now, there are so many other themes in this book besides colorism, and one of the most significant ones is healing. While Viola lays bare a lot of her wounds, she also conveys her path to healing, not through rose-colored glasses, but with honesty, transparency, and vulnerability. This is an autobiography that reads like a novel. It's clear that Viola Davis knows story and understands character and understands storytelling. The pacing is great. Kudos to her and her editors. This book is probably her own greatest character study because it's the character study of herself. I highly recommend finding your own copy of Viola Davis's Finding Me. Much love.